is going to win their fantasy championship? Show of hands. Not me. You?
I hope so.
All right, we're helping you get there. I'm Lauren Shehadi alongside fantasy basketball writer Jamey Eisenberg in for Sergio Gonzalez, who was at the Heat game last night, excuse me.
Well, you know, some of us have to work.
Oh,
it's not
job.
Football season anymore. Well, you're about to do March Madness on demand. Are you excited?
What's going on? I'm excited. Let's talk about a little pro basketball, though, shall we?
Of course.
All right, let's talk about injuries right off the bat. Chris Paul on there. He's medically cleared. When do we expect him back, Jamey?
Well, we're probably going to see him before the start of Fantasy Week 22, which is essentially the second round of the playoffs. That's, I think, what a lot of people are looking for. The bad thing is it's going to really impact Darren Collison, who's been such a fantasy star since Paul injured his knee. So this is going to really impact two players. You're getting Paul back. You're losing Collison. Some of these other guys on the list, you're going to see Gerald Wallace probably back, Luol Deng, Derrick Rose, you're going to have to keep an eye on the Bulls. Gerald Wallace, he should play. Rodney Stuckey, thankfully, is going to get back on the court. So you're going to see a lot of these guys probably available for Fantasy Week 22. You may see them before the end of Fantasy Week 21. So, Lauren, we're talking about some guys getting healthy, and that's a good thing. And, you know, you mentioned the Spurs. Tony Parker's still dealing with this hand injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. But with him not there, Manu Ginobili has really stepped up his game. George Hill is a fantasy star at this point, and we're finally seeing some signs of life from Richard Jefferson. 3 games in a row now with double figures in scoring. He's a guy you could probably start going forward.
All right, you mentioned getting healthy. Jason Terry getting healthy. He had that facial surgery. He's wearing that mask, pretty stylish. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be a little scared to start him with. Wouldn't he be a little timid playing?
Yeah, you know
what I mean?
The good thing is, though, we're talking about this on Wednesday, so this is still Fantasy Week 21. He's actually going to play in Wednesday night's game, so that's going to be a good thing. You'll get 2 games of Jason Terry to see exactly how he's going to be before you have to set your lineup. And I think, you know, he's going to be fine going into Fantasy Week 22. So you're looking at a guy that's still going to be a little playing off the rust, but we know he's going to be a very solid contributor when he's healthy. Good guy that can get you some scoring. We see Jose Calderon on this list finally back in the starting lineup. Jared Jack is now taking a back seat again, and this is good because Calderon now had a couple of good games. We'll get him in the lineup and good for fantasy owners because you got a guy that's going to really hand out a lot of assists.
All right, let's talk about Tracy McGrady. With him, I'm just worried about the inconsistency. What's the upside of starting him this week? Is there any?
There really isn't, because you look at games played, and that's something to keep in mind when you talk about Tracy McGrady. And then we're looking at a Knicks team that is really starting to look toward next year. They've been doing that really for most of the season, but we're talking about a guy in Tracy McGrady losing production when you talk about Tony Douglas now starting at point guard for the Knicks. We know Wilson Chandler, he's back. He's playing at a high level again. Danilo Gallinari, he's in that swing role as well. We know David Lee and obviously Al Harrington, those guys playing at a high level. So when you talk about guys like Tracy McGrady and all the Knicks, because 2 games, unless you're in an average-based league, in these head-to-head cumulative leagues, it's going to be tough to start the Knicks this coming week.
Turn that frown upside down. I have good news for you. Look at these forwards. These are guys with good matchups, guys that have played well in their recent games.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you see a guy like Corey Maggette on this list, and we saw a couple guys on the sit list from the Golden State Warriors. They're actually getting healthy, you know, and I know they lost Andres Biedrins for the season, but keep in mind that they had Monta Ellis dealing with the back problem. They had some other injuries that have allowed guys really to step up in secondary roles, but now the stars are back. Corey Maggette back from the hamstring problem. Get him in your lineup. And again, sit guys like C.J. Watson, sit guys like Anthony Morrow. You see Sean Marion. He's going to take a little bit of an adjustment period, so I don't love him that much, but 4 games is a good start for him. And then Carl Landry really playing at a high level since coming to Sacramento. That should continue.
Are we going to see a high level from some of the fringe Lakers? I'm talking Ron Artest, Lamar Odom. A couple of tough defenses they're playing against this week.
You know, prior to going to the Spurs game, the last game that I went to was the Lakers game. Got a chance to talk to some of these guys.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing with the Lakers is they're healthy. You know, we talked about health a lot in the show. They're healthy, and when they're healthy, the fringe players, as you mentioned,
it's not great for them.
It's not great for them. Kobe Bryant, still a great start because he's obviously putting up tremendous stats. We know Paul Gasol, you got to start him, and you probably got to start Andrew Bynum because he's center eligible, and you don't have a lot of great centers, as we know, especially with injuries at this point in the year. But Lamar Odom, Ron Artest, those 2 guys specifically, they have struggled with the adjustments. Artest has been all season long because he hasn't put up the numbers that you were hoping for coming to LA. He's really focused on his defense. And then Odom, he suffers because when Bynum and Gasol are healthy, he goes back into that secondary role. We know he's going to come off the bench regardless, but in that secondary role, he defers so much. He's such an unselfish player. Great for the Lakers, bad for fantasy owners.
And Millsap on there as well. A little too inconsistent to trust as of now.
Really, Millsap has been all season. It depends on Mehmet Okur and Carlos Boozer. When those guys are healthy, Millsap's stats just take a little bit of a decline.
Okay, the Bulls aren't very inconsistent. They're just banged up, but that doesn't stop you from starting Brad Miller.
No, he's really benefited, and the Bulls are doing the smart thing because they have so many injuries, and because they've been playing Miller so many minutes, he's getting a chance to rest and practice. And so you're seeing his production really transcend on the court because this is the Brad Miller sort of old, the guy that we know when he was playing in Sacramento, putting up consistent stats. The rebounds are there, the shots are there. He's a very good shooter from the outside. So Brad Miller going to continue to play well. Keep him active as a starting fantasy center. Now, we don't normally say that about a guy like Miller, but he's going to play well. Okur, another guy that came back from injury and playing well. And then Jason Thompson, he really struggled following the trade, struggled to get his numbers up to par, but now he's playing at a high level. Again, keep him active, especially in leagues where you can use him as a center.
All right, can you use Samuel Dallenberg? Are you starting him or are you sitting him?
I'm sitting him. You know, I think you look at a guy like Dallenberg, it's really interesting because the 76ers are going to take a little bit of a adjustment now because Thaddeus Young probably lost for the rest of the regular season with that hand injury. And I think you'll see Dallenberg, his numbers will be inconsistent. The rebounds will be there. If you're in a category-based league, I think you could still use Dallenberg for his rebounds, for his block shots. But in those average leagues, in those cumulative regular leagues, I don't think you want to trust a guy like Samuel Dallenberg. He just doesn't post consistent enough stats. You get one good game, one bad game with 3 games. You could probably find somebody else that you can use. And the same thing with Brandon Haywood and Roy Hibbert, guys that aren't really just putting up consistent numbers across the board.
If you cannot get yourself to a fantasy championship with that wealth of knowledge, I don't know what
You're
to do.
actually doing well in our rotisserie league.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, I'm going to go work on my lineup. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.